Hi, Bright Lights. Thanks for being here. In today's video, we are going to take a look at the great Christy McVie, the one of the front-running ladies of Fleetwood Mac and all of her wonderful accomplishments, and kind of go through her soul contract and see how that played out for her in her incarnation. Now, she did pass away several years ago. And I did get a request a long time ago, so I apologize. This has been a long time coming doing this video. So hopefully you will all find some great messages in it for you, because that's what I'm here to do, is to bring forward their messages and let you know how they're doing on the other side and how things went for them. I want everyone to know that we don't put anyone on a pedestal here. We don't judge them. This is all about people having a spiritual experience as a human being, and we want to definitely have a lot of love and compassion for them, because no matter how famous someone is, they always have their struggles. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. So if you don't know who Christine McVie is, if you haven't been on this planet for a while, she was, in my era, Fleetwood Mac, that was an American band, or she's actually from England, but is known in America as a very great rock band. And they just were fabulous. I mean, I still, of course, listen to their songs, and her song, particular Songbird, we are going to talk about that today, because we are always striving on our journey to awakening, and Songbird just happens to be very high consciousness, and we want to talk a little bit about why that is. So without any further ado, let's bring forward Christine's chart here. Get started. So here is the beautiful Christine McVie. Now, she did not always have that name. She was born Christine Ann Perfect. I'm not sure I would like to have that name. There might be some connotations with that name, but your chart, your soul contract, is driven by your birth name. And this is something that even if you change your name, you get married, or you have a stage name, this chart always carries forward for you no matter what. So we like to think of this chart as your cake of your life. And if you have a name change, or you get married, etc., or you have nicknames, those add another layer to the cake of your life. But we're just going to focus today on Christine McVie's her cake of her life chart. And so the first thing I want to point out is the pictures that I chose for the soul contract, for this display. And both of these I was very drawn to. And so when I was pulling in Christine's energy, she really liked this picture here with Lindsay Buckingham. Lindsay Buckingham, to her, and from what I am getting from her, was that the male energy for her, that maybe it wasn't a partner for her, but who is somebody that she greatly respected. They were together. Their music complemented each other. She loved working with him, even after she had taken a break from Fleetwood Mac for some time. She still got back together with Lindsay to do work, because she really trusted him. He was the one male figure in her life that she could really count on. And so that's one thing she wanted to bring through, was that love and admiration. I'm feeling very emotional as I'm talking about it, because she struggled very much in her personal relationships with men, and we're going to get into why that was. And I'm feeling that from her. So I feel very, like I said, very emotional. So excuse me for that. And this other picture that I was really drawn to, this picture here was on her Facebook page. And so, what I loved about this picture is that it just really brings forth this energy. And here she's looking at this book, and we're going to talk about what that means. There's some symbolism here. There's this beautiful jacket she has on about the flowering and the growth, and this very feminine energy that she brought to the table. This beautiful, softer, not this aggressive behavior. It was very, beautiful and colorful. And then, of course, her beautiful hair and her eyes. She didn't really showcase her eyes very much, but she had very, very beautiful eyes. And that's because, again, I've talked about this 11-2 before in someone's chart, which is Venus energy and is tied to the eyes. And so if you know somebody who has this number in their chart, you can read them by their eyes. They are very expressive through the eyes. So you would be able to tell a lot about what she was feeling by looking in her eyes. So very beautiful energy as well. And of course, we know how incredibly talented she was as a writer and a singer, which actually is something that she was meant part of her journey here. And so we want to talk a little bit about that as well. So again, this is her birth name up here, which drives the numbers that we put into the soul contract chart here. And I do always put a link to a short introductory video on the soul contracts so that you can see how I put the charts together. You can get a little bit of history about where the soul contract methodology came from and learn a little bit about that background if you haven't already. So the first thing we want to talk about is, again, I always talk about these two triangles, the one pointing to the earth and the one pointing to the sky. So that the one pointing to the earth is our physical chart. And you can see here there's physical. We have three, physical qualities or three physical aspects that we're working on. And we have three spiritual aspects that we are working on. And then all of those energies blended together give us our life purpose. And if you can think about your life purpose is just your overall, what you really came here to learn, what you came here to embody, because when we have these incarnations here, it's all about learning and growing as a soul. And so Christine chose the things that she did to learn and grow from them. So there's no judgment. I'm not going to pick on her for anything or cast any, oh, she should have done this or should have done that. Everything is perfect as it is. Everyone learns their lessons, or maybe they don't, but you know what? They get to decide to come back and try it again if they want. So we never judge because we're all on our own path and we all have our own struggles. So the first thing that I always like to get into right away is the physical side of our charts, because the physical side is really where us as spiritual beings come in, and we have to learn how to navigate this very dense energy of the 3D world, and that's our physicality. And then as we get to a certain point in our lives, there's a switch that happens, and it can be at a very young age. It just depends on where you're at in your soul's growth. But is where your spiritual energies start to come in. So it's, again, starting to put things together, getting a little bit, starting to see some of the illusions of the 3D world that are created to kind of keep us limited, and then trying to expand out of those ideas and beliefs that we have all taken on while working in the 3D environment. So for Christine, she has a tough challenge here. None of these are easy. I think I always say that. You're like, oh, quit saying that. They're all hard. This is though extremely hard because when you have a three and she has them both in her challenges, and this is what we consider karma. And karma is not a punishment. This is something that we chose to bring in from a prior life, something we may have struggled with that we want to try again and to get better at. And so we picked these are challenges that are going to be attracted to us. And so again, if you've studied a lot about law of attraction works in certain aspects, but you will always have things being attracted to you based on your soul contract. So it isn't always about just how you're feeling and that everybody has to be high vibe and they'll attract all these wonderful things. That's not entirely true. You're going to have these challenges because you picked them to learn and grow from them, and Christine did as well. And so what did she pick to what was her physical working in the 3D world? What challenges did she pick? So I'll get to it here. So for this, the 12 is all about expansion. And so she would struggle with balanced expansion in her life. And this is also tied to love. And she wrote a lot of songs about love. Love was very important to her. And that would be with having this number. So she's really to come into the love aspect. But because it's in a karmic aspect, this can be struggling with balance in your life, a balanced expansion, and struggling with your love relationship. So this can be multiple partners. And she talks a lot about that in quite a few interviews. There's no secrets that she had multiple partners and she had affairs. And those were all part of her journey here to learn about integrity and to learn about what self-worth is and love, because the three again is tied to your self-worth. It's a master number. This is a tough one to overcome. It's about really learning who you are at a soul level, but how worthy you are. And so this is self-esteem issues. This is going to come through as she would have been really shy as a child, because the three is all about this labyrinth here. And that's wanting to hide in this labyrinth. And so she would be challenged frequently with being able to express herself properly, like I said, being able to show and receive love the way that she was a very loving person, but to be able to allow herself to receive it as well. And that was something that was very difficult for her, which played into a lot of her there was some very toxic relationships, and not pointing the finger at anybody. But again, that's all about learning self-love and self-value. So this was a definite challenge for her. She's going, yeah, this was something that she did a lot of introspection on. And that is part of this. When we talk about alignment, being in alignment is when she felt very yucky about some of the things she was doing. She was married herself, having an affair with someone who was married, because you have to realize that we're all part of the greater whole. And what we do does affect other people. And sometimes we can only see it from our perspective, but there are other people you're affecting by your behavior. And it's not about living for others, but it's about doing things in the highest level of integrity. And so what happens if we're not doing something that's in our soul's best interest? It doesn't feel good, right? We get on that bumpy road out of alignment, and it's meant for us to do that self-reflection. And she did much of that. She wrote some really great songs out of those experiences too, to help others, to grow and learn from them as well. And I give her a lot of credit for that. Because again, this is all about, also the threes is about this master teacher number and about being a teacher in some way or another. And teacher doesn't mean just like in school, although she did have her teaching certificate for art. She, like I said, this is not unusual for me to see that people that work in the 3D environment. This number is all about learning how to teach, because you've been here many lifetimes if you've had this number and challenges. You've been around the block a time or two, and so now it's time to start thinking about how do I give back, and that can be leading by example, having all the success, writing songs and music that inspire others. So that can be a form of teaching as well. The other thing that threes come here to learn, and they're usually instilled with a certain level of poverty consciousness. And so this is about breaking out of that. Well, we know she did eventually make a lot of money, because threes do have this drive to want to make a lot of money. But again, we want balanced expansion. And so if you have a very low self-worth and you make a lot of money, you may blow it all. I mean, you hear about famous people who have blown all their money, and they're hurting, or they live, they don't live very well towards the end of their life. And that's all tied to your self-worth. And that's why if you have a lot of money, but you don't have the self-worth and the self-esteem to deal with having money, you usually end up losing it because you don't believe you're worthy of having it. So, but for Christine, that wasn't so much the case. As I remember hearing, she has drawn me to a couple of interviews, and on one of those that she pointed out where she had bought this Mercedes-Benz, or this big fancy car that really wasn't her, but she wanted it because again, we get into this programming of, well, I must have all these things, right, to be happy. And this is what this is all about. And the 11-2 is also about Venus energy, which is about luxury items. So she bought this car, but when she drove it, it wasn't comfortable. It didn't really fit her. And she ended up, she said, getting rid of it, and she lost money on it. And that's exactly how that kind of works. And she ended up buying this Jeep that she loved because she figured out right away, through some of these lessons. And that's what these lessons are about, is not repeating the pattern. It's figuring out, oh, having money isn't about just buying things that people think are fancy. It's buying things that work for you and being able to have that ability. And that's a wonderful thing to have. And so what she had was these great fours qualities, which is in her talents. And fours are all about abundance and manifesting abundance in a positive way. And they're very logical too. So they come through with this very, grounded energy, and more disconnected, not overly emotional energy. So they don't get too uh, trapped in certain like Neptune energy, which can be kind of this dreamy, not really seeing things. Fours are very logical. They learn like other people learn. And it's a really great talent to have because it's tied to the sun, and it's this very bright, expressive energy. I would believe when she walked into a room, she would light up the room. And what was great is her band members talk very highly of her. They talk about she was the glue that held this band together. And even though she took a long hiatus after, because she had hit her spiritual side of the chart, she was doing a lot of trauma healing and things that we get into once we hit our spiritual side of the chart, because it's all about healing. She left the band for 17 years, and that, 1 in 7, you'll see here kind of 1 in 7 add up to this 8 in her spiritual drive. So that was all meant to be. And so the other problem that came for her was she started to develop this 12s, because it's all about balanced expansion. They can manifest like illnesses, and they can manifest these kind of weird things that'll keep you from expanding. And so for her, she ended up having a fear of flying and this agoraphobia, which is a fear of open spaces. And so she was really had some of these very weird hits. And this was all about her to dig deeper, to go within, to expand. And she did. She ended up getting help. And she ended up being able to fly again with no issues at all because she was just this very old soul and knew she needed to start doing her inner work. And she started doing that. And so then she started to overcome. And so in her physical drives, which is about her goals in the physical realm, a 10-1 is, it really isn't a goal. So a 10-1 can leave you feeling like you don't know what you're meant to do in this life, but it's about serving. It's the 10-1 is tied to serving others. And this is really what she was meant to do, which was serving. 8s are about society and extending hands to reach out to others. And so, of course, we see this great reach out to others through the work that she was doing. And that, again, to me, she really did a good job of fulfilling this chart. You know, watching the 4s, because you can get some of the negative, you know, all these energies of positive and negative, no matter their placement. So again, she, even in a talent, a positive placement, she could get a little bit of selfishness or over self-indulgent things. You know, we talked about the car, but for her, it was, you know, drinking and alcohol for her was this, and I'm feeling how it affected her throat chakra because I'm wanting to cough, and coughing is also tied to guilt. And so there's a little bit of guilt that she always carried because of her not really being true to herself. That's again that little bit of 4, which is about that self-indulgent and not really doing the right thing at the right time, which we can all relate to, and looking back. And so for her, that's also tied to you know, to children. She did not have any children, so it can be, it's called the fruitful to barren number. You can either have a lot of something or not any of something. And so that kind of showcases that aspect of the number. What I want to talk about quickly with the 10-1 is, if I see a lot of 10-1s in especially a woman's chart, you really have to focus. This is a self-mastery number as well. We all know that she was, you know, music, this was very much mastery for her. But it's also disempowerment from the masculine, because it's a very masculine energy. It's a very stable energy, but the negative side of it is it can be disempowerment from the masculine. And this was something, again, we want to talk about those relationships with men, and they were very disempowering, except for this one bright light down here, this Lindsay Buckingham one. And so people with this number really need to evaluate. And I had to do this for myself. I have a 10-1 in my chart. And it's really about completely understanding your relationship with your father. And I remember reading and feeling from her this not wanting her dad to know about certain things, like especially when she was going to get divorced. She didn't want her dad, you know, looked at that traditional woman's role and not wanting to disappoint him. And that can be very disempowering for her because she's in this very toxic relationship and was feeling very resentful. There was a lot of resentful energy coming up, and just, and resentment is about because you were giving too much to something and you weren't getting enough in return. And that's, again, not just on the perpetrator, that's on us for allowing those boundaries to be crossed. Also, because the 10-1 is tied to being a healer, she had very good healing energy around her. And this would draw people to her because they were looking for someone to fix them. And so what showcases that really good in her chart was her relationship with Dennis Wilson. I think that's his name, right? I'm going to look here. I've got some stuff marked. I think that's his name, from the Beach Boys. Just let me know if I'm off. He was like a womanizing, she spent like 3 years. See, this stuff all kind of ties together. And so she spent 3 years in a relationship with him, and he was very much known for his womanizing and uh, really a lot of drugs and drinking and out of his mind of it. She's gonna fix him, right? She's gonna go in and here's somebody with some great musical acumen and some fame as well. And again, this is meant for you to see that you aren't meant here to save anyone. If you're a healer, you'll heal those that are ready to heal, and you can't force anyone who's not ready to heal. So that again is a very valuable lesson for her. And so 10 ones are to come into self-mastery. They're come into their balancing the masculine and feminine within themselves. So they're not looking for someone else to balance that out. And they usually end up living pretty independent lives. And I do think that could be said for her. She said she had gotten very, very independent towards the end of her life that way as far as relationships go. Now, on the spiritual side of our chart, the threes are all about expression, communication. And so she was learning how to really express herself through her music. And that's what we encourage for people who do have threes and their challenges, is to learn how to sing. She never thought she was a good singer because threes, again, have very low self-esteem, and they don't think, they're like, who am I to sing? Who am I to teach? Who am I to be a master at anything? I am just this little lowly being. And that's all by design, to help us learn about how valuable we are and how important we are. And I remember watching an interview with her and Stevie Nicks, and I do love their energy together. I feel like they were very supportive to one another, which is always super great to see two women in not be competitive, because our culture fosters this competitiveness, like fighting over men and that type of thing. That I don't want to go too much into that. It's very negative, but I like their very supportive energy. And I remember they were being interviewed and getting asked these terrible questions that, unfortunately, men rock stars don't get asked, but women rock stars, they're like, don't you want to have babies? And you know, are you just, they treat them like they're just like some backup singers. And I'll give Stevie Nicks credit. She spoke up, right? She says, no, the band can't go on without Christine or myself. So she wanted to put out, and Christine was saying the same thing, we are an integral part. We write the music, we sing the music, we also create the music. Christine was very much a part of writing the songs and putting them to music as well. Very integral part of that. And so these were frontline women, which was giving the world a new, we talk about years ago in the 60s and stuff, this rise of the feminine. And this was part of it, the rise of this feminine energy that was starting to balance out the patriarchy and the dominance. And so you would start to see these women start to rise. And Fleetwood Mac was a big part of that, going so big like that and writing these really great, great songs. So that was part of her spirituality, is to start to communicate, express the higher consciousness energy. And she had, again, this 10-1 in talents, again, is this very stable energy. It's about bringing people together in unity. She would definitely, and this is why they called her the glue, that kept the band together. She had this unity energy, and it's very strong. It's these links here that are stronger together. And so them as a group were always stronger together. And she was that glue that helped to keep that strength there. And then I talked about this a little bit already, these eights, and this is about connecting emotionally with society. And this is very much what she did in her path here. And the overall life purpose for her, just a short brief, because these can go very in depth, because it's not like a simple answer to anyone's chart. These are things that people need to learn about themselves and go deeper and deeper and deeper in the numbers. And I myself have been going deep on my numbers. And after 10 years, I'm still learning and still going deeper and deeper into my chart as to what it means for me. And so her life purpose overall, I'll just give you a couple of things. She was meant to build her own body of knowledge, her own, to build something. So she's got her songs, she has her music. That's building something of your own, not just as part of the band. She did go solo, and some of the things she did was solo. And we're going to talk about Songbird here in a minute. But this is about her building that, because she would have come here, 11-2s come here with not bringing forward a lot from their past lives, because they want to be this open container, and they want to be able to build like these building blocks of structure in a new way, to be able to think outside of the box, to be able to navigate, to not get stuck in these fours, which is about doing things as others do them. So she had a little bit of both, learning maybe how someone does something, but then finding your own structure within that. Twos are all about learning this great emotional resiliency and wisdom she did through these very unbalanced relationships, and being able to be this wise, paternal, protective energy. She has a lot of male, strong, protective energy in her chart, because the 8s bring forward that energy as well. And the 2s bring that, and the Archangel Michael energy from the 10-1s bring that. So she isn't so much on the feminine energy, which is why a lot of men and stuff would resonate with her so well too, because of the fact that she has this very protective masculine energy, like a divine masculine energy emanating from her. And this would also be about her learning to let go, which is very hard for 11-2s, especially like she said it wasn't until her father passed away until she really started looking at and grieving her mother, who had died 22 years before that, how, she had just kind of not done that work. And so then she needed to, and this is what the spiritual side of our chart does. It starts to make you go back and start to peel back the onion on all of this stuff. And this doesn't mean that things got really great for her. She had some struggles. She was still doing some drinking, and then she fell down the stairs, and that was a kind of a wake-up call for her there, to let go of that. And she did get a handle on that as well. She did end up dying of, I believe, some type of a stroke tied to the brain. And the 1s are definitely, usually in your chart, you can see where that one, the brain, anything with the brain is, we talked about Robin Williams' chart as well. He had a lot of 10-1s in his chart. And that's all about this, the mind. And, and this is, again, this is all part of the karma of cause and effect, and, part of not taking good care of herself, that self-love, which is again, from the 3s, that is part of her challenge here, was to take good care of herself. Not this, where I said the 11s, the Venus side can be very self-indulgent and a little bit, not being good to yourself. And so that's kind of just a little overview of what was going on with Christine in her chart. And I want to go and talk a little bit about her song, Songbird, before we get to just pulling a few messages from her. So Songbird, she said, is it was a very ambiguity type song. So it wasn't about something or nothing. It kind of encompassed this great love. And and it captures a selflessness of love, the selflessness of love, which is what that 12 in her chart, in her challenges, is trying to attain. So when you have something in your challenges, you're meant to come into the positive form. So she's meant to come into this very loving, it's very Libra energy, balanced, encompassing unity, consciousness, and what's good for all rather than what's good for the one. And so what I found was really interesting about this is that when she wrote Songbird, she was awoken in her sleep at night, and it was around 3:30 in the morning, which is tied to her three threes in her challenges again. And this Songbird, had popped into her head. That was a direct, again, we get these downloads from our guides. And she says it was as if I was being visited by someone. And so she said she wrote it down, and she quick got up and she got her little piano and was, with no tape recorder, and she just put it out very quickly. She said it was a very spiritual thing. And she was frightened to play it again in case she had forgotten it, but she didn't, of course. And that was a really good song for her. But she said, did it relate to anybody in particular? It relates to everybody. She said a lot of people played at their weddings or bar mitzvahs and even their dog's funeral. She's like, it's a universal song, which is what higher consciousness is about. It's about everything. You are everything, and yet you are nothing. And that is a direct quote from Maharaji, one of the great sages. And so here are the lyrics. It says, for you, there'll be no more crying. For you, the sun will be shining. And I feel that when I'm with you, it's all right. I know it's right. To you, I'll give the world. To you, I'll never be cold. Because I feel when I'm with you, it's all right. I know it's right. And I thought there was more. Hang on. And the songbirds keep singing like they know the score. And I love you, I love you, I love you, like never before, like never before, like never before. And I find it interesting that she uses that in threes, because threes are really great incantations for you to repeat something three times. So this is what I'm talking about, really higher consciousness, putting this higher consciousness energy out into the world to raise other people's consciousness, even if they aren't conscious of it, right? So that's Songbird, and it's something that I think she wanted played at her funeral, and really showcases that. So okay, let's get to a few cards to just talk about her journey and what she wants to share now with you after we ran through that chart and her beautiful song. Ooh, okay, so she says, the hungry ghosts. And so obsessiveness, scarcity consciousness, we talked about poverty consciousness, and attachment. This is the 14, and the 14 is tied, adds up to 5. 5 is tied to very intense relationships. But then she had a 1 and a 4 in her chart. Remember, the 1 was tied to the 10-1, which is that very higher consciousness energy. But in reverse, it can have a very compulsive, obsessive energy about it as well. And so she's telling you to start to look and be aware of what you're getting attached to and the compulsiveness around it. Because for her, it wasn't about addictions. It was about the compulsiveness that was driving the need. Like when people overeat, or they might grab a drink because they're trying to push something down. We call it stuffing. They're not wanting to look at the emotion that is tied to it. So we're going to go to the elemental oracle, because she had 8s in her charts, and 8s are tied to the elementals. They're very high frequency energy. And they love animals, and I know she was a dog person. Okay, and so this is all about pressure. and the transformation of pressure. And this is where, again, that diamond is being carved out of all of the pressures in her life and feeling all of this molding her into the person that she was. And this is the 26, and the 26 added together is the 8. We talked about the 8s in reaching out to society and sharing. And the 2 here is, again, we talked about that emotional resiliency, learning how to be that mature, emotionally stable person. And the 6 is all about creativity and putting those together. And you can see here, this beautiful lady is just being molded from all this pressure on this side here, all of this energy. And that was how she felt, the pressure just wouldn't, I can feel that at times that wouldn't let up. But that's how we become better, is we're feeling that pressure. We're feeling pushed. Pressure can be a very healthy thing. And this is who she was, loyal heart. And then here are the 2 wise owls with the crowns. And this is about like finding that supportive relationship for her. That was Lindsay Buckingham, that person she could, again, I want to cry. She had this great love for Lindsay. And she just really, I'm just going to break down here. Having that person in your life that you can really, really count on. And some of us sometimes don't recognize it till later, just how important that person was in your life. So for her, that was Lindsay. And so here they are looking at each other. And this is the 35 again, that 3 in her karma. And the 5 is all about freedom and patience. And 5s are also about, writing, spirituality, and then added together is another 8, and that reaching out to society. So this was really super important. And some of us don't have that in our lives. And she's saying you will eventually get there. When you do enough healing, the more whole you become, the more you will attract that type of person into your life, that partner that is just as wise as you are, from all of the shit. And she's saying that all of the shit you've been through, all of the illusions start to fall away. And then here's these 2 beautiful birds sitting there going, we understand each other. And so let's go here. I'm just going where she's pointing me. Hey, Christine. And she says, always be open to opportunity and change. That's what's really benefited her most in her life was taking those opportunities when they showed up, even when she was scared and didn't think she could do it. She said sometimes, and of course she's holding the Songbird. She never thought she was a good singer. And then she also wants to talk about that, again, that supportive relationship with Stevie as well, encouraging her that when she came back, she wants me to tell the story that when she decided to come back, she asked how Stevie would feel about that. And Stevie was just jumping up and down, really wanted her to come back. And again, I'm getting very emotional because she's very emotional. These are her buddies. And there's the birds flying off. And this very beautiful energy here, this angel. And like I said, I love this little songbird in her hand. So, oh, I didn't think this was going to get so emotional. But let's go to the Sacred Destiny and see what else she'd like to share with us. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the spirit animal oracle. And this is her as well, the deer spirit, bringing a gentle touch to things. Again, she wasn't that that energy that would put people off. People would be very drawn to her softness and her approach, and just being very grounded in that very protective energy. And deer are tied to abundance as well. And she's got that 1 and 8, that unity consciousness, and the 8s reaching out to others, which add up to a 9, which is all powerful. And the 18-9 is seeing, I call it the project manager number, because it's really seeing things from start to finish. And she developed this great skill about seeing all, when she could, becoming that mastery we talked about with our 10-1, being able to start something and seeing it through to the end, in completeness. That is a beautiful energy. And so we're going to do 2 more quick ones here. She wants me to pull this deck. That's why I was feeling that there was something I was missing, and she figured it out. Oh, here's a couple cards that want to slide out. And so we're talking about orca magic. So this is very interesting. Look at, she lives there's the glass bowl, she was also, 8s are known for their being able to see and sense the future. And the Akashic library is open. And so here's the numbers 4 and 3. And so the Akashic records hold all of our, lifetimes, and our things that we've overcome. And the magic of the orcas is just communicating on a similar frequency. That's what she wanted to say. You'll find that similar frequency that will be magic for you. And that will come, she's saying, as the Akashic records, that's a very spiritual, high consciousness concept of learning through the Akashic records. And that's just such a fascinating card to me. I'm really drawn to that, whales. And I think of very high frequency, because that's how they communicate, by high frequency. And this is the Alice in a Sea of Tears. And so I talked about the 11-2 part of her life mission was, and this is the 11 card here, about cast away out of your depth, feeling abandoned, when she had finally, both parents were gone, and she needed to do all of that deep dive, and really letting that grief out that she had not looked at for years and years and years. And how important that is. It's not anything to be afraid of. It's so healing to let out that, that negative, trapped, traumatic energy, because 11-2s are all, they want to hang on, to very emotional things, and they get very attached. It's almost a codependent energy, or it can be a codependent energy, but it's all meant to learn about the cycles of life, and to learn how to let go, and that there will be a new beginning. There will be something new coming. And it's not about forgetting or not loving or remembering somebody, but it's always about that allowing the newness to come in, the new energy to bring that in. And you have to do some cleaning of those tears. It's a cleansing that we have to get rid of all of that old. So we're going to go to the Metatron, Sacred Geometry Angel, or Self-Mastery. And that's this final card she's going to share with us. Oh, and this was something I wanted to say earlier and I had forgotten. Blue. She reminds me of this royal blue color, which is tied to like royalty, like, to me, queen energy, very divine. And here it is right here. And this is the 29 which adds up to the 11, and that was in her life purpose, soul destiny, whatever you want to call that, her overall learning. And this is Madonna and mothering. And so this is about being that, healer, that mothering energy. And the blue that I love her in blue, that is her color. And she's very regal. She exhibits that very regal energy. And you can see the star up here, which we're tied to we're all star seeds tied to our little star chakra up there. And what a beautiful self-mastery card to look on. So she is showcasing that Madonna energy, even though she wasn't a mother, she was a mother to many and in different ways. So mothering is mothering yourself, mothering others, taking care. That's nurturing, birthing new creative projects. That's all tied to the Madonna and mothering. So it's kind of like the Empress in the tarot. It's all about this fertility and lush, lavish love everywhere. So what a wonderful card to end on. And that was her life overall purpose. And so she's doing well, and she's looking down at everybody, and she thanks everyone for their support and all their love and all the outpouring after she had crossed over. They see all of that from the other side, and her heart is just filled. And when I see them, how they show themselves to me is, she looks like this very, like around 30, and this very kind of, I want to say like hippie, uh, you can just see the energy and the youthfulness and this creativity, and very much, I would say, that mothering energy, that stability, yeah, that Venus energy coming through. So that was, I was so happy that someone suggested to do her. I have really enjoyed connecting with her energy and feeling that great love that she has to offer, and she's still on the other side. So don't be afraid to ask her to show you a sign, and then, you know, enjoy it when you get it, because that's how it will work. So, well, thank you again for being here. And just remember, be the light, bright lights. We're all needed here. We all serve an important purpose. So take care, and I will see you in the next video.